On December 14, 2025, the world woke to a headline that felt impossible. Rob Reiner, the director whose films shaped generations and whose voice in public life was unmistakable, was found dead at his home in Brentwood, Los Angeles. Alongside him was his wife, Michele Singer Reiner. The discovery sent shockwaves through Hollywood and beyond, sparking an outpouring of grief and questions that have not yet been fully answered. For decades, Reiner's work, from the absurdist genius of This Is Spinal Tap to the gentle heartbreak of Stand By Me and the cultural touchstone The Princess Bride, made him more than a director. He was a storyteller who helped define what American cinema could feel like. He was also a public figure, outspoken, political, and beloved by colleagues and critics alike. The news of his sudden passing did more than end a life. It cut through the narrative of a career, leaving a stunned public to wonder what happened in those final hours. This video does not begin by telling you what the medical examiner found or by offering a tidy explanation. Instead, we open on the date and the shock. Prepare to be surprised, to wrestle with uncertainty, and to see how grief, celebrity, and the machinery of news coverage collide. We will trace Rob Reiner's rise, his private world, the last known movements leading up to December 14, 2025, and the unfolding investigation that followed. We will let the facts lead, and we will show how, in the absence of answers, people try to fill the silence with narrative. In the final months of his life, Rob Reiner was not retreating from the world. There was no public farewell tour, no announcement of retirement, no sense that he was closing the door on a career that had spanned more than 5 decades. Instead, those months were marked by continued creative momentum, social engagement, and the quiet routines of a man who still believed his best conversations, and perhaps his best ideas, were yet to come. By all outward measures, Rob Reiner remained deeply involved in filmmaking. He was actively discussing projects, refining ideas, and engaging with collaborators who had worked with him for years, as well as younger creatives who still sought his guidance. His passion for storytelling had not dimmed with age. If anything, it had become more reflective, more deliberate, shaped by experience rather than urgency. One of the most significant undertakings during this period was the completion of a long-anticipated project tied to one of the most iconic works of his career. The film represented both a return to familiar creative ground and a celebration of artistic freedom, a theme that had defined Reiner's work since his earliest days behind the camera. For those close to him, this project felt symbolic, a bridge between the young filmmaker who once challenged conventions and the seasoned artist still willing to laugh at the absurdities of fame, ego, and culture. Professionally, Reiner was described as focused and engaged. Meetings were held, phone calls returned, notes exchanged. He was present, not just physically but mentally. Those who worked with him during this time recall that he remained opinionated, sharp, and enthusiastic, especially when discussing film history, political discourse, or the evolving state of Hollywood. He was not someone merely supervising from a distance. He was involved, curious, and invested. Outside of work, Rob Reiner's personal life appeared, on the surface, calm and structured. He spent time at home with his wife, Michele Singer Reiner, with whom he shared not only a marriage but also a creative partnership. Friends who visited the couple during these months often remarked on the warmth of their home, a place filled with conversation, humor, and the familiar rhythms of long companionship. Socially, Reiner did not isolate himself. He attended gatherings, dinners, and industry events when his schedule allowed. These were not grand public spectacles but intimate settings, private homes, quiet restaurants, familiar faces. In these environments, Reiner was described as relaxed and conversational, often reflecting on the past while still engaging passionately with the present. At several such gatherings, colleagues later recalled how Reiner spoke openly about film, politics, and the direction of American culture. He listened as much as he talked, often asking thoughtful questions and offering anecdotes drawn from decades in the industry. There was no sense, among those present, that these moments were anything other than ordinary, and it is precisely that ordinariness that would later make the shock of his death so profound. Friends who spent time with him during the last months would later struggle to reconcile their memories with the tragedy that followed. Many recalled laughter. Others remembered long discussions late into the evening. Some remembered plans that were casually made, future dinners, future conversations, ideas to revisit. None of those plans carried the weight of finality at the time. There were also moments of reflection. Reiner, well aware of his place in film history, occasionally spoke about legacy, not in grand statements, but in passing remarks. He expressed pride in the stories he had told and gratitude for the collaborators who had trusted him. Yet even these reflections were forward-looking, framed around lessons to pass on rather than endings to accept. Physically, he appeared consistent with a man of his age. There were no public indications of severe illness or incapacity. He moved at his own pace, maintained his routines, and remained mentally alert. To the outside world, and even to many close to him, Rob Reiner seemed steady. And that is what makes these final months so haunting in retrospect. There were no dramatic warnings. No visible unraveling. No clear dividing line between before and after. Life, as it often does, continued in small, unremarkable ways. Meetings scheduled, dinners attended, phone calls answered, right up until it didn't. In hindsight, every conversation would later be replayed. Every invitation would be remembered. Every shared laugh would take on a new weight. But in those moments, no one knew they were standing so close to the edge of history. Rob Reiner's last months were not defined by retreat or silence. They were defined by presence, creative, social, human. And that makes what came next not just tragic, but deeply unsettling. Because when the end finally arrived, it did not interrupt a life already winding down. It interrupted a life that was still very much in motion. In the last week of Rob Reiner's life, he maintained a schedule that on the surface appeared ordinary for a man of his stature and routine. Friends and associates noted that he continued to move through life with energy and purpose, despite his age. The week began quietly, with Reiner largely spending time at his Brentwood home with his wife, Michele Singer Reiner, attending to personal matters and reviewing final touches for ongoing projects. By Monday, he had reportedly begun reviewing edits for Spinal Tap at Stonehenge, the final finale, making notes and suggestions for the production team. Those closest to him recalled that he approached the work with his typical meticulous attention to detail, combining professionalism with a dry sense of humor that had become a signature of his interactions over decades. On Tuesday, he had a meeting with a longtime producer friend to discuss potential future projects. According to accounts from colleagues, the meeting lasted several hours and included both creative brainstorming and practical discussions about timelines, funding, and casting. Despite his advancing age, Reiner's mind remained sharp, and he participated actively, often peppering conversations with anecdotes from earlier in his career. Wednesday and Thursday were quieter days, with Reiner reportedly dedicating time to family matters, household maintenance, and casual social interactions. Friends who visited during these days described him as warm, attentive, and engaged in conversation. The same Rob Reiner who had been a mentor, a collaborator, and a friend to so many in Hollywood for decades. There were no apparent signs of distress or illness. During this week, Reiner also maintained his pattern of discreet public appearances. He was seen attending a small, private luncheon with several industry colleagues, where he discussed his upcoming projects and offered advice to younger filmmakers. Observers noted his energy and humor, often recounting stories from earlier film sets to illustrate points about directing, editing, and storytelling. He was also reportedly in touch by phone and video calls with actors and collaborators, providing guidance and creative input from the comfort of his home. These interactions reflected not only his enduring influence in the industry, but also his personal commitment to fostering relationships with those around him. On the weekend preceding December 14th, Reiner spent more private time at home. He reportedly hosted a small gathering of close friends and family, where he appeared engaged and attentive, enjoying conversations and sharing laughter. Accounts from those present suggest that the atmosphere was calm and warm, with no outward indication of impending tragedy. Saturday evening, he and Michele reportedly watched early cuts of the Stonehenge concert film project. They discussed edits and proposed minor adjustments, continuing the collaborative spirit that had defined their partnership for decades. According to friends, Reiner's attention to detail remained as sharp as ever, reflecting his lifelong dedication to storytelling. Sunday was spent quietly, with no known public engagements. Family members and close friends described the day as ordinary and uneventful, a typical Sunday in the Reiner household. From the beginning of that week through the day before the tragedy, multiple confirmed sightings indicate that Rob Reiner remained active, alert, and socially engaged. He interacted with family, friends, and colleagues, demonstrating the same warmth, intellect, and humor for which he was celebrated. These confirmed interactions are significant because they paint a picture of a man whose final days, at least externally, were filled with engagement rather than isolation. Every recorded meeting, call, or casual interaction suggests a continuity of personality and creative drive. A man fully present in his life and work up until the very end. The final week of Rob Reiner's life, based on verified accounts, appeared ordinary, filled with work, family, and social engagement. From reviewing projects and meetings with collaborators to hosting friends and enjoying quiet time with his wife, Reiner's movements suggest a continuity of the life he had led for decades, active, creative, and connected. Yet, within this ordinary week, the seeds of an event that would shock the world were silently unfolding. The contrast between the vibrancy of these final days and the tragedy that followed underscores the profound shock experienced by friends, colleagues, and the public alike. It is this tension, between what appeared normal and what ultimately occurred, that forms the backdrop for the investigation and reconstruction that follows in the subsequent chapters. The evening of December 13th, 2025, was described by neighbors and acquaintances as unusually active at Rob Reiner's Brentwood residence. Reports indicate that the couple hosted a small gathering, including close friends and a few collaborators from Reiner's most recent projects. According to confirmed accounts, the atmosphere during the early hours of the evening appeared friendly, with conversations and laughter, typical of the Reiners' well-known hospitality. As the night progressed, some witnesses reported a heated exchange between individuals in attendance. The specifics of the argument remain unclear, but multiple accounts note raised voices and a tense tone. Those present later described the situation as brief but intense, occurring in a private area of the house away from the majority of guests. While no physical altercation was reported during the party, the tension was sufficient that some guests left earlier than planned, citing discomfort. Throughout the evening, Rob Reiner himself was reportedly engaged but composed, attempting to maintain calm and mediate between conflicting parties. Observers described him as trying to de-escalate the situation, speaking with measured tones and showing concern for everyone present. Michele Singer Reiner was also reportedly involved, attempting to manage the logistics of the gathering while also attending to her husband. Though it was a seemingly ordinary social event, this gathering would later be scrutinized during the investigation for the sequence of events immediately preceding the tragedy. Witness accounts, while overlapping in timing, contain variations regarding exact moments of the argument, illustrating the inherent challenges of reconstructing events in real time. The tragedy came to light on December 14, 2025, when friends who had attempted to contact the Reiners without response became concerned. After repeated attempts to reach the couple failed, a neighbor or family member reportedly went to the Brentwood home to check on them. Upon entering, they discovered Rob Reiner and Michele Singer Reiner unresponsive. Emergency services were immediately called. First responders arrived within minutes and began life-saving efforts, which were ultimately unsuccessful. The scene was secured, and investigators began documenting the environment, movements within the house, and evidence present. Law enforcement timelines indicate that the initial discovery, emergency response, and securing of the scene occurred within a narrow window. Paramedics and police documented the condition of the residence, noting signs of routine domestic life interspersed with elements connected to the preceding evening's gathering. Family members were notified shortly thereafter, with close relatives arriving at the scene under police escort. The emotional impact of the discovery was profound, as those present were confronted with the sudden and unexpected loss of a public figure beloved by colleagues, fans, and family alike. Following the discovery, law enforcement conducted an initial investigation to determine the circumstances surrounding the deaths. The investigation also included collection and analysis of digital evidence, such as phones and messaging devices, security and surveillance footage from the home and nearby areas, and computer systems, including editing stations used for Reiner's projects. These digital records were carefully examined to establish communication patterns, timing, and interactions, offering investigators a clearer picture of the couple's final days. Any digital evidence considered relevant was preserved in its original form to maintain admissibility in potential legal proceedings. Authorities were deliberate about the information they released to the public. Confirmed facts included the date and location of discovery, that the deaths were under investigation as suspicious, the arrest of a suspect connected to the case, and that autopsies and forensic analyses were underway. Information withheld included detailed cause of death for either individual, specific toxicology results, sensitive witness statements or conflicting accounts, and any internal hypotheses about motives or circumstances. This selective approach was intended to prevent the spread of rumors and maintain the integrity of the case. Investigators explicitly warned that early speculation by media or social platforms could undermine ongoing efforts and potentially affect future legal proceedings. Through the combination of physical evidence, witness statements, and digital records, investigators began building a timeline of events for the final week and, particularly, the final day. Key points included verified presence of the Reiners at the home the night before discovery, documentation of interactions with friends and associates, attempts to contact the couple by family members that failed, and the emergency response upon discovery. The reconstruction provided law enforcement with a framework to verify or challenge witness claims, cross-reference digital logs, and identify gaps in the narrative that required further attention. The medical team looked for internal injuries, bruising, or other evidence that might suggest a struggle, while also assessing natural causes or medical conditions that could have contributed. Toxicology testing formed a critical part of the investigation. Samples from blood, urine, and tissue were collected to detect the presence of drugs, alcohol, or other substances. Such testing helps forensic experts determine whether any substances may have played a role in impairing judgment or contributing to the deaths. These results often take weeks to process fully, as laboratories conduct multiple analyses to ensure accuracy and rule out contamination. Another essential element of the forensic process was time of death estimation. Determining the approximate moment of death involves examining body temperature, rigor mortis, stiffening of muscles, livor mortis, settling of blood, and other postmortem changes. These physiological indicators, combined with witness statements, digital records, and surveillance data, allow investigators to construct a precise timeline of events leading up to the deaths. Scene analysis also played a pivotal role. Investigators documented every item in the home, including objects that might indicate recent movement or activity, personal effects, and signs of struggle or disturbance. Footprints, fingerprints, and trace evidence such as hair fibers or residue were collected and preserved. The goal of this forensic documentation was to reconstruct the environment as accurately as possible, offering critical context for both the deaths and any potential legal proceedings. Ultimately, forensics is a combination of science and careful documentation. Every finding, from chemical analysis to microscopic fibers, forms part of a larger puzzle that helps explain what happened. While the public often sees only the headlines or the arrest, forensic experts provide the factual foundation that allows authorities to distinguish speculation from verified truth. Following the arrest connected to the deaths of Rob Reiner and Michele Singer Reiner, the legal process began, moving methodically through a series of stages designed to ensure fairness, accountability, and adherence to the law. Initially, the suspect underwent booking and formal arraignment, during which charges were officially read and legal representation was arranged. The nature of the charges reflected the preliminary findings from the investigation and the circumstances surrounding the deaths, while maintaining the presumption of innocence until proven guilty. Pre-trial proceedings included evidence review, disclosure, and preliminary hearings. Prosecutors worked closely with investigators to compile a complete record of witness statements, forensic findings, and any digital evidence collected from the Reiner's home and other relevant locations. Defense attorneys examined this material to assess the strength of the case, evaluate potential defenses, and identify any procedural concerns that could influence trial outcomes. Possible defenses in such cases can vary widely, including challenges to the admissibility of evidence, questions regarding intent or state of mind, and mitigating circumstances related to the suspect's behavior or relationship with the victims. While the public often speculates on these elements, the legal process requires that each claim be substantiated under established rules of law. Throughout this stage, timelines are critical. Courts set deadlines for motions, hearings, and discovery to ensure that both prosecution and defense have adequate time to prepare. In high-profile cases, the media attention can be intense, but judges often impose restrictions on public disclosures to protect the integrity of the proceedings and ensure a fair trial. In parallel, the families of the victims are kept informed and may have the opportunity to provide statements, attend hearings, or participate in advocacy through legal channels. While public emotion is significant, the legal process remains structured to weigh evidence, witness testimony, and forensic results in a manner that is impartial and just. The combination of careful forensic work and structured legal procedure ensures that the case moves from initial investigation to potential trial in a way that balances public interest with the principles of due process. In the context of Rob Reiner's and Michele Singer Reiner's deaths, these processes serve as both a mechanism for accountability and a framework to honor the facts above speculation or rumor. When the news of Rob Reiner's death broke, the speed at which information spread was staggering. Within minutes, alerts flashed across phones, television panels filled with speculation, and social media platforms transformed grief into real-time commentary. In high-profile deaths, the line between reporting and interpretation often blurs, and this case proved no exception. Some outlets chose restraint, repeating only what authorities had confirmed and emphasizing that the investigation was ongoing. Others moved faster, attempting to construct narratives before facts were fully established. Anonymous sources were cited. Headlines hinted at conclusions that had not yet been reached. In the race to be first, context was sometimes lost. The danger of this approach is not merely journalistic. For families, premature narratives can deepen trauma. For the public, early assumptions often harden into belief, even when later evidence complicates or contradicts initial reporting. In the days following Reiner's death, rumors spread faster than corrections, and speculation often outpaced verified information. Responsible journalism requires patience, especially in moments of shock. In this case, the most careful reporting focused on what was known, the confirmed timeline, official statements, and the acknowledgement of uncertainty. These outlets resisted the temptation to dramatize, recognizing that truth unfolds slowly and that silence at times is more honest than conjecture. The Reiner case became a case study in modern media culture. It revealed how quickly tragedy can be shaped into narrative, how easily complexity can be flattened into certainty, and how essential ethical restraint remains in an era where attention is currency. The lesson is simple but difficult. When lives end, facts deserve time. To understand Rob Reiner only through the circumstances of his death would be to miss the far larger story of who he was in life. For those who worked with him, Reiner was not just a celebrated director. He was a listener, a collaborator, and a mentor. Actors often described him as a director who trusted performance over spectacle. On set, he was known for creating environments where people felt safe to take risks. He rarely raised his voice. Instead, he asked questions. He encouraged experimentation. Many performers have said their best work emerged not from instruction, but from conversations with Reiner between takes. Crew members recall his consistency. Whether working on a major studio production or a smaller project, Reiner treated people with the same respect. He learned names. He remembered families. He understood that filmmaking was not just about vision, but about trust. Younger filmmakers frequently cited him as a quiet guide rather than a commanding presence. He gave advice when asked, avoided cynicism, and remained deeply curious about new voices and new stories. Even late in his career, he spoke less about legacy and more about what still needed to be said. Friends describe him as someone who carried humor and seriousness in equal measure. He could debate fiercely and then laugh just as hard minutes later. He believed stories mattered, not because they entertained, but because they connected people. In the end, Rob Reiner's true legacy does not reside in headlines or investigations. It lives in the films that continue to be watched, quoted, and shared across generations. It lives in the artists he supported, the audiences he moved, and the quiet moments on set where creativity felt possible. The man behind the camera shaped stories about friendship, courage, love, and memory. And long after the noise fades, those stories remain.